Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Kung Fu Panda 4. So, is Kung Fu Panda 4 like the worst Kung Fu Panda movie? Maybe. But is it a bad movie? I don't necessarily think so. I'm sort of coming at this from one, I was a kid who grew up with Conan the Destroyer, because I wasn't allowed to watch Conan the Barbarian, and I totally love that, even though I don't think it's the best movie. Maybe I should rewatch it at some point. And I kind of think this is sort of like that. They make a cheapo, kind of shitty sequel to something, and it's fun and entertaining. It doesn't live up to the other ones, but it's just like they go on another adventure. Even though they sort of try to give this more than that, and it doesn't really work, mostly because they didn't want to pay people, which is always fun and entertaining to see people be cheap. It's such a great business model. What if I paid people less? Would I not make more? Maybe, but does it make for a better product? Pretty much never. Kung Fu Panda 4, I saw this with my daughter. We had a great time, and she kind of changed, I think, how everyone else is very disappointed in this, and I'm more like, I thought it was cool. I don't know. Am I gonna proclaim it's the best Kung Fu Panda movie? No, not at all. But it's like, I think maybe one of the things with Kung Fu Panda is movie versus the shows. Is like, it'd be kind of cool if Kung Fu Panda, or, Po, could go on like just random ass journeys and stuff, and a movie could just be like, I don't know, we're doing this movie. And you're like, okay, cool. And each one felt like, oh, it has to like raise the stakes and bring up this with Po and bring up like his family and like do these crazy camera things and two. And it's like, I don't know if there's anywhere you could take this franchise, and although I think you probably could have gotten Jennifer E. Nelson back, who did a great job, an amazing direction, I think probably the best direction in the series, and the second one, and this is done by Mike Mitchell, who is famous for doing Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo, and also Shrek 4 and Lego Movie 2, so he's really good at making sequels to stuff that nobody really likes. But I think it's just like, if you look at this as another adventure, it's sort of fine and like a fine little movie. If you look at it as sort of like, this is raising the stakes for the other movies, I think that like obviously would not be as good. But I think like, I don't really get the hesitation, because I honestly, when I watch this, I think, well, yeah, no shit. I mean, I figured that out pretty early on. Sorry. It was like pretty clear. Didn't work. I mean, they wanted it to be like all the villains, but they clearly didn't get Gary Oldman and J.K. Simmons, who, like, you can't get J.K. Simmons to voice something. Like, the fuck is wrong with your payroll? Jesus, guys. But they got Ian McShane back. I don't know. Po needs to give up being the Dragon Master, and at first he's chosen between Mr. Beast saying one line and a bunch of other people, and he's like, nah, I still want to be the Dragon Warrior, because he's supposed to move on to being he's supposed to be a spiritual guy. I don't know, he's supposed to be a spiritual leader guy, and he's supposed to find someone, and then because he hears about this chameleon character, he goes on a journey with a fox voiced by Awkwafina, and they try to sort of find the chameleon and take her down while she's trying to steal kung fu from people and changing into them. She wants to get his staff so that hopefully she can like get all the other bad guys, because she appeared as Ian McShane's character from the first one. She wants to get that so she can like rule the world and all that stuff. Yeah, so I saw this with my daughter because she really liked it and had a great time. And I think as a kid's movie, it works totally great. And she also said that she noticed it was Awkwafina and asked me if it was Awkwafina. You may have seen this tweet. I tweeted and stuff, but it really did happen. She asked me, is the actress who is the voice of the girl in Kung Fu Panda 4 is the fox, is that the same voice from Raya? I was like, yes, that is the same voice as Raya. And she's like, well, she's the best actress ever. And she's probably heard her also in Little Mermaid and this, and I did actually think Awkwafina was probably the best I've heard her in a while. I thought she had great chemistry with Jack Black. I actually liked her in this, even though I was like, man, why doesn't she have an agent that should tell her not to be in so many of these things? It feels a little much. Which even I was like, before I heard my daughter say that, I was like, I like her performance, but like she needs to like ease up on all these, because it's like a lot of like animated and kid stuff like for her. Like, where's the next farewell? And so we're getting this stuff. I mean, it's like, I'm a little confused. But it also made me frame of like what this movie is that it's just a fun kind of journey. It's sort of a passing of the torch thing. I sort of get Jack Black giving sort of passing the torch to Awkwafina. She is sort of becoming this thing for family kind of fun and entertainment. Maybe that's like she's not the worst at it. I understand like why people hate it so much. I get from my daughter and friends and her friends stuff that Awkwafina is not as eye-rolling to them. I'm very curious how she will be framed in 20, 30 years as we all get old and the younger generation reappraises her as being the person who is in so many of the cool movies they got to grow up with. I have this feeling things will change with that. But I think if you meet this as just another journey of Poe, it's not so bad. Now, in the context of the franchise that is literally the name of it, yeah, it doesn't live up to those things. I don't really care that much about 3. It's sort of 1 and 2 for me, and there's like this other movie, which I remember I've rewatched a few times, and I'm just like, whoosh. I sort of feel that way about this. This sort of stands out to me more. I think the protege mentee thing works a little bit better. There are some twists which are like, I guess, or the reasoning for things, which to me feels like sort of kid logic. The action sequences were decent, but I don't think they weren't as transcendent. I do think like sort of one of the things is like it sort of got over directed in the first 2, and I feel like the ones 3 and 4 are kind of like not sure how to do something like that. So it's like them just like being competent feels like too much of a step down. And I think Mike Mitchell, when he does these sequels, seems to like, I get the impression he's just like, it feels to me through his direction, I don't know anything behind the scenes, he's just trying to make as cheap of a sequel as he can to not get in trouble. They just always feel very safe and not as expressive as they could be. It's like you're at 4, you can have some fun here, and it never feels like he's truly having fun. And I think like Kung Fu Panda 4 doesn't really get in there. I did think there was one interesting thing I thought about the score is you always hear pop songs in kids animated films, and it feels a little obnoxious. They did a cover of Crazy Train, like an orchestral cover of Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train, or Randy Rhoads' Crazy Train, if you're cool. And I was like, if let's say the Mario movie replaced all the pop songs with like orchestral versions of it or different kind of versions of these pop songs, like that, I actually like that a lot. I wish they do that more, actually. Like that's a neat idea. I don't know if anyone caught that. As an individual adventure or like just a TV special of Kung Fu Panda, totally, this really works. But as a movie, I do think it is sort of a lesser thing, but I still thought I had fun watching it. I think it's very solid for family entertainment and stuff. This is a franchise that's really 3 and 4 are held back by what 1 and 2 accomplished. And it does sort of feel like they probably should not have kept making them if they weren't going to get Jennifer Nelson back. They should have probably just let it go. But it seems, Kung Fu Panda is such a huge property and stuff like that. It was also weird. I didn't realize Dustin Hoffman come back, but seeing so many characters like the Furious 5 come back and none of them voice anything. The Peacock Gary Oldman plays and J.K. Simmons villain don't speak as well. It just feels like they wanted to do this epic big finale and they just couldn't. They couldn't afford it, and so we wound up with it the way it is. I know there's things in the press and stuff, but it really does feel like sort of someone like cheaping out on something that could have been really cool. Like we get all the villains, the Furious 5 is back, and I saw someone mention like, oh, they wanted to try to make it No Way Home. And I think like the thing people forget about No Way Home is like they had to like pay all those guys, and those guys aren't cheap. And I think like if you're going to do something like that, like same with Endgame or something, like those, everybody got paid, so you got to do that too. You can't just be like, oh man, they didn't show up. Well, I got Ian McShane, so I guess this will work. Like it did oftentimes, particularly in the end, where you have several characters you've seen before just not talking, and it's like, I know why they're not fucking talking, because you don't want to pay them, and that just feels boring and predictable and just like sad. It's just a solid kids film. I think you could live with it or without it. I sort of liked it more than 3, but I don't have strong feelings about 3. To me, it's like 1 and 2, and there's like these other movies. This feels part of like, oh, it's just another movie. Especially after Orion in the Dark and Ruby Gilman and stuff, I do feel like there's like corporate DreamWorks, like this and Trolls, and then there's like fun, interesting DreamWorks. I think how well done the Kung Fu Panda franchise is you sort of want it to be more. You want them to play with the design more. You want them to be more open to stuff. And this just doesn't. It feels a little stubborn in still trying to be an adventure, despite that maybe everything's moved on. It's a fun little thing, basically. It's a fun little entry in the franchise. I think the importance they put on each one sort of ruined it. As just a little adventure, it's fine. You're going to get what you want from it. But anything more, anything to dazzle you or meet at least the first two, I think that's a bit of a fool's errand. I hope if they do another one, they do more with it. I wouldn't mind if there's just like every couple of years just a random Poe adventure or a Kung Fu Panda franchise entry. I think that would actually be really cool. But maybe people are too harsh on this. Maybe they want to be too harsh on this. But I thought it was like fine. I don't have extreme strong feelings about it other than I know my daughter had a fun time. And the other kids in the theater sound like they're having a fun time. I don't know if this is made for anybody else, but you know, watching it, I think it could have been a little bit better. And I think they could have tried a little harder. And it feels like they sort of rushed into something that they weren't fully prepared for or weren't fully prepared to cast the way it should have been. And it kind of just makes it feel maybe not as essential because they couldn't get all the right people for it, which feels ultimately just like disappointing. You know, I think it's fine for like what it is. I think it totally sort of works within its own thing, but you kind of want it to be more than just what it is. So if you've seen Kung Fu Panda 4 and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.